What's up, guys? Welcome back to Classic Octane. I am Taylor. Today we are on the KZ750 project again. The name of the game today is going to be Brakes. So on the KZ750, it is factory front and rear disc brakes, which is pretty cool. Most of the bikes I typically work on from the 70s are drums in the rear. The issue is neither one of these are working in any capacity. So this just goes all the way, and so we're going to pull apart the braking system. I did get a new master cylinder for two reasons. One, this one's really rough, and two, I wanted to get rid of this ugly faded kind of see-through fluid reservoir. So I went with kind of an all black one. TBD on if it's going to work or not, but we'll find out later in this video. It's relatively inexpensive. I've used that exact master cylinder before on a 550, CB550, so we'll see if it works on this one. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pull the whole braking system apart, caliper all the way to the master cylinder, and we're just going to start to disassemble it and clean it all out, see how our seals are doing, if we need to replace anything like that, and kind of go from there, and then we will repeat the process on the rear. So we have, let me pull this little side cover off, which I need to get some new rubbers for these if I'm going to keep these. So rear master cylinder right there. It looks like it's just completely dry, but it's kind of caked up in there, so I'm still going to want to take it apart and clean it, but we might be able to get away with just some nice cleaning and a bleed here on the rear system, but let's dig into it. Starting to pull this brake assembly apart, and you can see it's just like covered in this like gross powder in there. That's why I'm taking it all apart. You know, I could have maybe gotten away with like filling the reservoir up, giving it a good bleed, but when, you know, the bike's been sitting for this long and you open up the master cylinder, it looks like that, just go ahead and plan on a good pull apart and clean. So all the components came off easy. Unfortunately, at some point, one of my little mounting bolts for the pressure switch was broken. No, I didn't break it, but somebody did. You can see when I pulled the bolts out, this guy is rusted and broken in half, and the remaining bit of it is still in the bike. So that's not good. We'll have to see if we can get that pulled out. I'm going to continue to pull this apart, start to shoot some brake fluid once I get it down, some brake parts cleaner, down the little passages, try to blow it all out. I also keep a guitar string in my toolbox as well, so I can, you know, if it's really clogged, I can run a string through there and kind of try and push a bunch of crud all the way through the lines. Pull the pressure switch off as well, so we can make sure that this whole block and everything's nice and clean on the inside. Then we will disassemble the caliper and do the same. Got all the lines cleaned out. I ended up using the guitar string, jamming it down the hole to kind of break it up a little bit, and spraying it with brake cleaner and then compressed air. I got a bunch of dirty brown liquid coming out, but now I'm able to spray down and get nice clean fluid through. Took the all the connectors off of this block, blew this out, cleaned it as well, same with the pressure switch. So all that's great. I've been hitting the banjo bolts on the wire wheel, making sure those are nice and clean. Next step is going to be to disassemble this caliper to make sure it's nice and clean inside, and then see if any of our seals need to be replaced. Have the caliper all apart. Pretty rusty inside, but not terrible. Got the seal out. The seal actually is in surprisingly good shape. It's still really pliable. So I'm just going to clean it and reuse it. I may regret that decision later, not replacing this, but just because I don't have one of these right now. And this one, like I said, is surprisingly good. If it was brittle and I was going to break it getting it out or something, I wouldn't bother, but this one actually seems like it's in pretty good shape. Piston's not bad. Definitely going to clean it up. Probably hit it on the Scotch-Brite wheel over there. Get my Dremel out with a little wire wheel just to clean up the where the seal goes in, and then of course spray out all the passages and everything really well. But brake pads still have good life left in them, so no need to replace those. So This little dust boot and everything is in good shape, so it's just going to be a lot of cleaning up, wire wheeling, and getting it all in good condition. We'll put it all back together. Starting to go back together. So far so good. I was able to use my Knipex Cobras. There are certain pliers to get out the broken stud. In true classic Octane fashion, I wouldn't be able to build a motorcycle if it didn't at least have some Honda parts. So small as they may be, we have two OE Honda 6mm bolts that are going to go in there and replace the broken and rusted out ones. So just going to continue this process and hopefully it all goes well. Got it all back together. Made a little bit of a mess while I was bleeding it, but it was my own fault. Basically, how I bleed these bikes actually came from a suggestion from you guys. So I bought a large syringe off Amazon, and basically you fill that with brake fluid, and then you undo the bleed, not like completely, but loosen the bleed screw, and actually pump fluid into the caliper first. It'll fill up that cavity behind the piston and then fill all the lines and push all the air up while it's doing it. I forgot that about halfway through and was trying to do a traditional, fill this up and pump it. So I kind of shot myself in the foot a little bit, made it harder. I was able to get a pretty good bleed out of it, or that's as far as it'll go. But I would like to, I want to do another bleed at some point to make it a little bit better, but fully functional. It's not leaking anywhere now. All the lines are dry. So we have a functioning front brake system. I'm going to jump on the rears. I just pulled this little dust seal off, and it looks like there's brown sugar in there. This is like dirty old brake fluid, so there's a possibility I'll need to get a replacement master cylinder, but I'm going to tear it apart, try to clean it out, see just how bad it really is. We'll do the same thing with pulling apart the rear caliper as well. So I'm just going to yank all these parts off, and then I will bring you back when we're on the bench. Got the rear pulled off. You do have to pull the rear wheel to get the bracket out to be able to get the rear caliper off, or at least I think so. I tried to undo the bolts that like hold the pads in and slide it off, but I couldn't get it out. So it could be just me not knowing how Kawasaki's work. But anyway, here's a little closer look at that brown sugar I was talking about that's inside of this. So we'll see what we can do to bring this guy back to life. But again, worst case scenario, I don't think it'll be too hard for us to find a replacement. But I'm just going to start hitting everything with some brake cleaner, some wire wheel, and we'll get this line cleaned out and kind of repeat what we did in the front. Got the caliper taken apart, and there's like a big old booger of old brake fluid. Pretty gross in there as well. So just going to keep brake cleaning and cleaning it up. I'm going to pull that seal and we'll see the condition of it. Rear caliper was all pulled apart, cleaned out. Really nothing to report. Seal and everything was in surprisingly good shape, just like the front. So that's all back together. Got the line cleaned out. I am going to just wire brush the ends to kind of clean them up a little bit. Now it's time to dive into this master cylinder and see what it looks like on the inside. This master cylinder comes apart just like a lot of them do, with a snap ring, and then the little plunger comes out. There's a little rubber seal on there. That's kind of what goes up and down. This was totally seized, so I'm going to be soaking this for a while. I'll see how it comes back. This I can wire wheel off and get all the gunk off, check that seal. We'll have to, we'll see. I'm going to keep going with this to see if we can revive it. Doesn't look like it's heavily corroded. It really just looks like it's gummed up. So we'll keep giving it a good clean and see what we can do. Okay, I'm totally confident we can bring this guy back now. Little rubber seal in there is good. Springs in nice shape. So I don't think I'm gonna regret not replacing a lot of this stuff. Part of me wishes I would have just ordered 2 kits, but I wanted to get in here and see what it was like. So honestly, I think it's pretty good. Time will tell if we have to come back in here again, but I wanted to show you guys that it is possible sometimes, if the parts aren't too far gone, to just kind of restore what you already have without having to dump a whole bunch of money into something. So we're gonna kind of keep going through, and the plunger and everything cleaned up real nice. So we're gonna start reassembling, and I'm gonna be putting a little WD-40 just to kind of make sure all the seals and everything can slide nice and easy. But we should be ready to go back together and put it back on the bike. Got the rear all back together. It looks pretty good. The pedal actually compresses the master cylinder now, and you can hear a little suction in there. Pretty sweet. Unfortunately, I do not have time tonight to bleed the system and try it all out. We'll have to leave that to another day. Alright guys, I'm out of time tonight, so I'm going to call it on this one. I hope you enjoyed me kind of going through these old brakes and kind of showing you that you don't have to necessarily just throw a bunch of money at a bike. If you take some elbow grease and some time, you can kind of rebuild a lot of the times what's there. If our seals were a little bit more dry or cracking or anything like that, I would have replaced them. You know, only time will tell when we ride the bike if I'll regret that. Worst case scenario, it would be a slow leak. It's not like we're going to lose brakes completely or something like that. I wouldn't risk it if that were the case. I'm pretty confident in the system now. So in the next video, we are going to probably finish bleeding the back. What else do we have to do? I'll probably start to button up like the throttle and some stuff like that. Maybe get the bike running again. I have new jets to rejet the carb. I need to get some pod filters on the way. We got plenty of other stuff to do, so I'm going to hopefully jump on another video very soon, and I'll see you guys then.